So a lot of things like women not being allowed to drive or something, that's not Islamic, that's the culture of that specific country. So, you know, it's really hard to look at things so openly and really research what the facts are of things when there's so many, you know, different prejudices. Everybody has prejudice, and there's so many different prejudices, so many different misconceptions, and you know, that's one of the things, you know, and one of the points that the religion does make is that, you know, God sent every nation, God had sent a prophet to every nation to preach and say that, you know, there's only one God, you should worship this one God. So, you know, every different people, and, you know, people were sent to different nationalities and different, having this concept, and that there are some that, you know, prophets that we don't know of, some prophets that we do know of, and some of them had books. Like we believe, you know, Moses had a book, Abraham had the book, you know, David had a book, Song of Solomon's, and, you know, we believe what we believe over time that, you know, people have changed their religion, and the original documentation is lost, and that it's not in the same form and in the same practice that it was originally. And the reason why, you know, that the need to keep on sending prophets and to keep on sending, you know, books of guidance would be because man had changed, added his own word into, made alterations for culture, for, you know, something. So when, you know, one of the points that Islam makes, you know, when prophets are sent, that some people, when they won't look at things optimistically and look at things truthfully because of, you know, arrogance, because of this is a person from a different race, this is a person from a different color, this is a person from a different country and a different culture, you know, and that doesn't, because of our own arrogance and our own prejudice, which God doesn't view men in the same way that we view men, that we won't accept that their ideas and their beliefs, even if it's the truth, because of arrogance in our own hearts, because of things. And that was one of the things, you know, it really hit home for me and helped me to look at things optimistically. And, you know, one thing that really did hinder me from converting was, you know, it was so socially unacceptable to be Muslim. You know, it's really, you know, difficult to, you know, be in a country and then be, you know, a minority, and then be in a minority that has so much, you know, prejudice with it, and has so much, you know, bad attention from the media, and has so much, you know, like false ideas with. I remember when, you know, I was first considering that I was going to, you know, get married and convert, and, you know, it was really hard to tell my family that you know, that had been like generations of Christian, some were Catholic, some were born again Christian, and this is, you know, a Christian country. It was really difficult to, you know, face the prejudice and the misconceptions of what people had to say to me, and just, you know, social outcast because of, you know, religious beliefs and knowing the difference. So it was a really big sacrifice, you know, to go against what the norm of the culture is. It's really, you know, wearing, you know, covering and doing, you know, practicing this religion. You get a lot of prejudice, and I think that's really something that hinders a lot of people from researching and accepting, is the misconceptions and the way other people socially you'll be perceived, and because you do make a lot of sacrifices and you have to face a lot of prejudice. You know, when I had originally started telling my family, especially my grandparents, they were very old, they're 75, and they've been Catholic all their lives, and their great-great-grandparents have been Catholic, and you know, I told them, and, you know, it really scared them, and they really, you know, were praying for me, they felt bad for me. You know, that's a lot of misconceptions, and it's really hard to, once you believe that this is the truth, and that's what really prevents people from really researching and looking at things optimistically. There's so much prejudice you face, and there's so much misconceptions. You know, and then I had ended up, you know, getting married, and, you know, started practicing the religion. And I went over to visit my husband's family, and, you know, I was trying not to be, you know, prejudiced, and trying not to, you know, be nervous, but I was nervous because of so many different